There's a reason your life feels heavy, chaotic, and scattered. And it's not because you lack time or discipline. It's because you're too available, too accessible, too open to things that continuously pull you out of alignment. Every day, your attention is being stolen by things that have nothing to do with your growth. Your peace is constantly on loan, given away in pieces to things that drain you. It's not more time you need, it's fewer leaks. You're not exhausted because life is unbearable. You're exhausted because you keep giving yourself away to people, patterns, and distractions that don't deserve you. You're on call for the world like it's your full-time job. Always replying, always explaining, always trying to keep the peace at the cost of your own. You drop everything when a message comes in. You feel obligated to say yes when your soul is screaming no. You overextend, overcommit, and over-explain. Out of guilt, out of fear. Fear of letting someone down. Fear of missing out. Fear of seeming selfish. And it's slowly killing your momentum. Let's get real. You're not drowning because your responsibilities are too big. You're drowning because your boundaries are too small. You've normalized being reachable at all times. But here's the truth. You teach people how to treat you based on what you accept. The more available you are, the more people assume they deserve your energy. And if you're always accessible, you'll never be respected. But the moment you start making yourself less available to what drains you, everything changes. When you stop handing out unlimited access to your energy, your peace starts to return. Not everything needs a reply. Not every call requires an answer. Not every moment needs to be filled. This isn't about being rude, it's about being deliberate. When you start protecting your space, you make room for clarity to show up. When the noise dies down, the real you can finally breathe again. Your next chapter isn't written in chaos. It's written in the quiet you keep avoiding. The version of you that you're trying to become can't coexist with the habits you're still indulging. Growth doesn't happen when you're always distracted, always performing, always people-pleasing. Growth happens in moments of silence, in the discomfort of saying no, in the discipline of not replying, in the choice to choose yourself. You say yes too quickly. You answer out of habit. You've confused being helpful with being used. Let me be clear. There's a difference between being needed and being depleted. And if you're constantly showing up for everything, you'll have nothing left for yourself. It feels good to be needed. It feels affirming when people ask for your time. But the line between being valued and being taken for granted gets blurry when you're always available. You can't step into the next version of yourself while still playing caretaker to the distractions of your old life. You want to level up? Then stop leaking energy into conversations that go nowhere, into explanations that don't need to be given, into obligations that no longer align with the life you say you want. Because every sure you say, when you mean no, keeps you tied to a version of yourself you're meant to leave behind. Imagine trying to run forward while dragging a net full of old habits, outdated relationships, and low-priority obligations. You won't get far before collapsing under the weight. At some point, something has to give, and that something is your over-availability. Start treating your time like it's sacred, because it is. Your space is where your ideas take form, where your nervous system heals, where your spirit starts to speak. But you won't hear it if you're always tuned into the noise of other people's lives. And no, solitude isn't loneliness. It's clarity. It's the space where your intuition gets louder than the world. You don't need more hustle. You need more intentional silence. Not isolation, but intentional distance. A pause long enough to remember who you were before the world taught you to be everything to everyone. And that doesn't mean ghosting everyone. It means not shrinking into smaller versions of yourself just to be accepted. It means not cutting yourself into digestible pieces for people who will never value your fullness. It means saying no without explaining, walking away without apologizing. The solution isn't more discipline, it's more disconnection from what dilutes you, from what distracts you, from what derails your energy. Create distance between yourself and the chaos. Make your peace harder to reach, not out of arrogance, but out of respect. If you are always accessible, your transformation will never have the room to arrive. Let people adjust to your boundaries. Let the world recalibrate to your focus. And it starts with you. The boundaries you set with others only hold if you first honor them within yourself. You have to stop interrupting your own growth every time discomfort knocks. Stop betraying your own clarity to appease someone else's confusion. You keep saying you're busy, but what you're really doing is avoiding. Avoiding discomfort. Avoiding growth. Avoiding the stillness that would force you to get honest about the way you've been shrinking. You confuse motion with meaning, productivity with purpose. Busyness has become your safety blanket, a distraction dressed up as diligence. But let me tell you something. Your next level won't come from staying busy. It comes from staying conscious. And consciousness requires stillness. Every time you keep answering out of habit, you're delaying your evolution. You're reinforcing an outdated identity that doesn't fit anymore. The people who knew the old you keep showing up because you keep answering as the old you. If you want to become someone new, you have to stop making space for the past. Change isn't painful because of the becoming. It's painful because of the releasing, the letting go, the unraveling of patterns that once felt like comfort. The moment you stop explaining yourself, the moment you stop apologizing for being unavailable, that's where real change begins. You don't need another planner, another productivity hack. You need a boundary, a sacred yes to yourself, a bold no to the things that shrink you. Growth doesn't come from adding more. It comes from subtracting what no longer serves. The clearest version of you is waiting. Not louder, not busier, just clearer. They're not rushing, not reacting, not grasping. They're grounded, present, focused. They're not panicking when people disappear. They're too tuned in to their purpose to care. They don't beg for alignment. They create it by what they refuse to entertain. But to meet them, you have to let go of everything that competes for their energy, including your own self-sabotage. You've been accessible to your fear, accessible to your doubt, available to distractions disguised as decisions. You've delayed your growth with phrases like, "I'm still figuring it out," when really, you're just afraid to let go of what feels familiar. Let go anyway. It won't feel easy. Letting go never does, even when the thing you're releasing is draining you. But everything shifts the moment you decide your energy is not free. Your attention is not casual. Your presence is not for the taking. You move differently when you honor your own worth. You stop shrinking to be accepted. You stop apologizing for not being constantly reachable, because you finally understand that your value isn't measured by your availability. True transformation happens in stillness, in those quiet moments where no one is watching, in those decisions that don't need an announcement. You just start moving differently, speaking differently. You walk into rooms whole, not because you rehearsed confidence, but because you reclaimed your space. Let's normalize not answering right away, not being reachable on demand. Let's normalize taking a breath before we respond, protecting our peace like it's priceless, because it is. And if that means some people don't understand you anymore, let them. You're not here to be understood by everyone. You're here to remember who you are, unapologetically. And the moment you stop being so available to everyone else is the moment you become deeply available to yourself. That's when the shift begins. When you realize how much of your energy was spent performing for the comfort of others. Playing small so you wouldn't disrupt the room. But the version of you that's arriving, they don't shrink. They don't explain. They don't wait for permission to take up space. They just do. Because they finally understand. Evolution doesn't happen in chaos. It happens in calm, in clarity, in the quiet decision to stop giving yourself away piece by piece. You're not failing, you're just distracted, scattered, pulled in too many directions. But this is your moment. Not the loud, dramatic kind. The quiet kind. The kind where you finally say, enough. You don't wait for Monday. You don't wait for a new month. You don't need a crisis to wake you up. You just decide. You decide that your peace is no longer negotiable. You decide that being constantly reachable isn't a virtue. You decide to stop making yourself available to people and patterns that pull you backwards. Some people will misread your silence. Old habits will beg to return. But if you stay the course, if you choose presence over people-pleasing, clarity over chaos, self-respect over validation, you'll become who you were meant to be. You'll stop chasing change and start embodying it. So if you're still here, present, focused, ready, let this be your line in the sand. No hashtags, no captions, just a quiet declaration.